more. I'm good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sessa's Corner. Not just any edition of Sessa's Corner, but this is episode 20 of Sessa's Corner. Episode 20 already, and I come to you tonight. I have the pleasure of being at the Epic Sports Training and Fitness Academy in Sterling, New Jersey, and with me, my guest for episode 20 of Sessa's Corner, I am honored to have the legendary coach Rich Vicaro, the man behind all of this wonderful facility that you see, the man behind it all, the man who has done it all, and the man who to this day is continuing to do it all. Coach, welcome. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Welcome to Sessa's Corner.
Thank you for having me, Anthony.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. And here we are in the center of, the main part of your facility that you have owned and have been the lead instructor since 2012. And I mean, we're going to talk all about how this place came to be, but we're going to kind of go back and then, we'll lead our way back here. I mean, folks, when I say this gentleman is a jack of all trades, he is a jack of all trades and a master of all trades. And you're going to find out very shortly, exactly what I mean specifically by that. And when I say coach, we are talking in the softball ranks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not only talking about a legendary coach on the high school softball and college softball level, but first and foremost, we are talking about a legendary semi-pro fast-pitch softball player and most importantly pitcher who has been pitching and playing essentially since he was a little kid, but from 1970 to 2015 overall in terms of the actual semi-pro career. And you just had a chance to see exactly what Coach Vicaro can still do at the age of 65. You can see the way he was whipping those fastballs and curveballs in and change-ups, etc. And the man can still do it, and he does do it. And what can I say, Rich? You're here. We are, and you're on the verge of, or I should say, in the beginning of returning to your old backyard. I should say, County College of Morris, where you're now the head pitching coach and assistant head coach there, where you were there once before. If I recall, it was 2009, 2010. You spent some time there.
Correct.
And of course, you've been all over the place on the high school and the college level. But let's again kind of rewind and kind of go back to where it all began. Of course, you come from what we call the old neighborhood, Newark, New Jersey, and beginning in the Central Ward, and then of course your family moving over to, of course, what's famously known as the Old First Ward, aka North Newark. And you, of course, with your home away from home being the First Avenue School Playground, Branchbrook Park, and of course the legendary Newark City, stadium. So let's kind of start there. You started with softball and played baseball and touched football, and you're a bowler as well. So just kind of start us off with your journey from where it all began with the old neighborhood, and kind of we'll go from there.
Okay. My family originally lived in the Central Ward, and what happened was Newark College of Engineering was expanding, so the owner of our home said, well, we needed to move, and my grandfather had a friend who lived in the North Ward right across the street from School Stadium. So we wound up moving into a house. I was probably 75 yards from School Stadium. So the stadium was right there. I went to First Avenue School from 2nd grade through 8th grade. And for those who don't know, I would guess that North Newark was probably the most baseball and softball obsessed place in the world. We just played nonstop, whether it was playing stickball in the playground, playing slow pitch softball on the playground, going to the stadium, playing whatever in St. Francis Little League, etc. I started coaching actually when I was 15 years old because I was working with the neighborhood youth corps, and I worked in the First Avenue playground in the summer, and I was able to get that job through Steve Adebato Sr., who helped us get the job, and Mr. Garino, who was the playground teacher at the time. A lot of people will remember Mr. Garino. He had said, coach a team. So we wound up having 2 Little League teams plus an older age team. And I couldn't coach 2 Little League teams, so I told 2 friends of mine to coach one of the teams, and I coached the other one. So the first time I ever actually coached was in 1970. As far as playing baseball, I played nonstop. St. Francis Little League, CYO. Our St. Francis Xavier Little League team was the 1969 CYO champs. You know, we had some really good players on the team. Tommy Torciello, rest in peace, was a great pitcher. And shortstop, Felix Flores, who played basketball at Bloomfield High School after that. Al Musi, you know, and on and on. It was a whole lot of fun. I played in Newark Summer League. In fact, I was playing high school level when I was just out of 8th grade with a few other people. Jerry D'Alessandro, Jerry Casalino, Jimmy Casalino coached that team. So we were playing with guys who were juniors and seniors, and we had just graduated from 8th grade. But, you know, we were playing at a pretty high level. And as far as softball goes, I started, for the most part, at about age 11. The Avalone brothers, their parents lived right across the street, and my friend Ralph Avalone was a few years older than me, and we were on the team. Actually, we would go to Watsessing Park in Bloomfield to practice on Sunday mornings, and I was 11 years old, and he was probably about 13 at the time, and then we would watch the games. I remember I was the scorekeeper for the first game, and it was a bloody mess. I think the team lost something like 36-0.
Wow.
Well, they had an A-League team that didn't make it into A-League, so they were there. But the team got progressively better. When I was 12 years old, one time they only had 7 players. When they had 8 players, Ralph Avalone would be asked to fill in with his brothers. They only had 7 players, so everybody's looking around saying, the umps are not going to care. Go play. So I played men's fast pitch softball for the first time when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
1967.
1967. Oh.
Then after that, essentially what happened is in 1970, I was going to watch their games, and at one point, it looked like their roster was getting kind of lean.
Yeah.
So they asked me if I'd come in, and I started playing fast pitch as the third baseman because they needed somebody who was crazy enough, and I was young enough to not realize how lethal it could be. So I played third base, finished that season. Next season, I became the shortstop on the team and was playing men's fast pitch softball and loved it. I used to play in the outfield grass because I had a very strong arm. Oftentimes they would have me as a leadoff hitter because I was the younger guy, etc. And I loved playing every year. And we played, and I remember the key game, and this is the B League. The A League, they were paying the pitchers large amounts to be able to play. There were guys from all over playing. It was one of the highest level leagues in the East Coast. As far as the B League goes, we played in the championship game in 1973 against a team, the Spirit of 74, that was sponsored by Tony Imperial.
Oh, the late great Tony Imperial.
And it was the Diaco brothers. Teddy Diaco was the pitcher. Bobby Diaco was on the team. Anthony Diaco, and we played them and we beat them 5-1 in the championship game. And I still remember, bases loaded. I hit a triple over the right fielder's head to knock in 3. Got knocked in, and
you're only 12 years old at this point.
At this point in '73, I was 18 years old. I just turned
18. Okay, but you're living the dream already, basically. Essentially.
I played men's fast pitch. I mean, some of us started. I remember Tommy Torciello started at age 13 playing fast pitch softball. So, you know, it was great playing softball. And now I went to Essex Catholic, where as a student I was on the National Honor Society. Found out I really liked chemistry. So, you know, what do I want to do when I get older? And I said, well, chemistry or chemical engineering. And I interviewed several people in the field, and they couldn't find a difference, because there were chemists working as chemical engineers and vice versa. So I said, chemical engineers get paid more. I think I want to be a chemical engineer. So I decided to go to Newark College of Engineering. There's a few other schools I looked up, but it was convenient. You know, one of the negative things in my life, unfortunately, was when I was 12 years old, my father passed away, dropped dead of a heart attack.
Very sorry.
So you know, the money was very lean. So Plus, my mother was a widow, so it was okay. The school's close, it's convenient, etc.
Exactly.
Now, the interesting things the other things I did was, and a lot of kids from the neighborhood will remember that I was an avid bowler because my mother
Yes.
ran the kids' bowling
Yep.
leagues.
God bless your mother. Yes.
At the stadium bowling alley, which I heard burnt down years after that.
Yes.
But the funny thing was that at one point, she would have the kids' leagues, because I was always bowling with the older ones, on a Saturday morning, and the technician to repair the lanes would not come in till like 10 o'clock, and they started at 8. So I was the guy repairing the lanes, something that the insurance companies would never even think of these days.
Heaven forbid.
Now, this is Catholic. I mean, I wound up playing a little baseball, a little bit of football. Didn't realize with football till many years later that the medication I was taking for hay fever could have knocked an elephant out. my doctor told me. But bowling was great. My freshman year in bowling, I was the first freshman to make the bowling team. About 80 boys went out for 8 positions. So I was fortunate, and we wound up finishing 3rd in the state.
As I said, folks, jack and master of all trades. It seems like whatever you've touched over the years has essentially turned to gold. Very talented individual, to say the least, Coach. And then, you mentioned about the chemical engineering, and you have, once you made that decision about starting, to pursue chemical engineering, you're now sitting here 40 plus years, very successful career in chemical and environmental engineering. You've worked for Exxon, numerous other companies. You're also now a private engineering consultant, I understand, for several years now. And in preparation for tonight, I was reading up on some of your background, and I saw that at one point you, as part of your career, you're in a big field project, and you actually had to live essentially in an oil tanker for 19 days in the North Sea or something to that effect. You got to tell us about all of that.
Okay, well, there's a few big projects I worked on at Exxon. One of them was to try to evaluate how much evaporative loss you get from crude oil tankers. So toward this end, what we needed to do was test a couple different crude oils. And we said, okay, so where is the tanker that was going to be, the term they use is lifting the crude oil? Well, it's going to be lifting at Flotta Island in the Orkney Islands, north of Scotland. So my technician and I got a call last minute. There was an open flight to get it to Scotland to stay overnight and then take puddle jumper. So we have to get onto the oil tanker. The problem is that, how do you get to the oil tanker? So we fly onto Flotta Island. Essentially, they shuttle us to the other side of the island, and they say, okay, fine, put them on a launch. So we're on this boat going out to the tanker, and my technician's saying, where's the tanker? I said, wait. And all of a sudden, out of the shadows, the tanker emerges. He says, okay, how do we get there? Did they lower a net? I said, no, we climb up the ladder up the side of the tanker, and we did. And we got on board, and it was interesting. It was a crew from Northern England, and we had no idea what they were talking about because they had such heavy accent. It was like a heavy Scottish accent.
Oh, my goodness.
But we stayed on 19 days. So essentially the tanker, it loaded there, the crude oil went down to Rotterdam, it discharged, it went back up to the Firth of Forth in Scotland. We stayed at anchor for a few days. They loaded, we then went down to southern England where they discharged in Southampton, and we got off. So it was 19 days. And it was interesting because it was probably the 2 calmest weeks ever in the history of the North Sea. And the problem with the calm waters is the fact that the tanker bounces, and I suffer from motion sickness, so it was an adventure.
I'm trying to picture it in my head as you're describing it, and needless to say, it's making me nervous just thinking about it. But that's quite a story, to say the least, an experience. Needless to say, that you'll never ever forget, without question about that. And so, this tremendous career in engineering and an equally tremendous career in coaching and playing fast pitch softball, and so much ground to cover here. And I'm sure the stories that you can tell, I'm sure you could write a book if you choose, there's no question. You could probably write multiple books, I would imagine. but I mean, you spent time, just to kind of highlight a few things, you spent time 2019, 2020, or what was, whatever was 2020. We all know how this past year has gone. Head softball coach at the College of Mount St. Vincent in Riverdale in the Bronx, I understand, the Bronx, New York. Home, of course, of my beloved New York Yankees. Coach Vicaro is a Met fan, so we're going to have some fun with and nonetheless, and now, of course, back home to the County College of Morris, as we said before. But, as part of this stellar coaching career, we want to talk about 2011 to 2013, your time at Montclair State University, where, under your tutelage, pitching staff, that one season, I believe, 2013, correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
The year that Montclair State captured the NJAC Conference Championship and the NCAA Division III Eastern Regional Championship, and you and your colleagues were part of the regional coaching staff for the year 2012 and 2013. But the 2013, where Montclair State University started with 31 straight wins, and you being the pitching coach, the pitching staff had a combined earned run average, a remarkable and incredible and sensational 0.90. I mean, that speaks volumes for itself right there. I mean, tell us about those times at Montclair State, those championships, that experience there. Also, one of your top pitchers, if not the top pitcher that you had there, Alex Hill, who under your tutelage was 3-time first-team All-American. Talk to us a little bit about your time there at Montclair State.
Well, I started in the fall of 2010, and here I am, the new pitching coach, and we had some of the new players, and Alex Hill is throwing, and I'm watching her, and I asked her a simple question. I said, have you ever fallen over pitching? She said, what are you talking about? I said, you leaned so far, your center of gravity shifted. I've never seen anything. She blew us off. Next day we videotaped her, and we said, oh my God. So I sat with Anita Kubicka, the head coach, Ryan Doty, assistant coach, and Alex, and I said, I think I can straighten her up, okay? The problem was Alex, a typical pitcher leaning, was not physically as balanced as should be. So in all the fitness in that fall, she had back aches and this and that. So it comes around, her freshman year, the spring for 2011, and she slips on the ice on campus and almost breaks her ankle. Heavily wrapped ankle. Oh. She was the Rookie of the Year and the NJAC Pitcher of the Year, to show how good she was as a freshman.
That's remarkable.
Okay.
Remarkable.
Her second year, essentially, we had an unbelievable year. We surprised everyone we didn't win the conference. I mean, Rowan was a staunch rival in bitter games, but we were fortunate enough to beat them in the regionals, and we wound up going to national championship, and we won the first game, we won the second, we went to the third game of the national championship against Pacific Lutheran from Tacoma, Washington, and it went to 12 innings, and we lost 2-1. Had we scored 1 run between the 6th and 12th inning, we would have been playing for national championship. So we wound up getting kicked to the losers bracket, and we ended the year in third. Montclair State had not had success like that in quite a bit of time. I think it was 25 years. Comes the next year, we're ranked third in the country to start the year because we finished third. Fine. The first two teams ahead of us, number 1 and 2, both lose in a week before us. We're now ranked number 1 in the country and hadn't played a game yet. We proceed to win 31 in a row.
Wow.
And we lost an extra inning game at Kane. You would have thought they won the national championship, but they had just beaten the number 1 team.
Yeah. Well,
and we wound up ending the year. We wound up winning the conference. We ran the table, won 4 straight. We went to the regionals, very hard fought. The regionals happened to be at Montclair State that year. That was set up mid-season.
Talk about a heaven-sent arrangement right there.
Everything went right through, and now we go to the national championship. We win the first game, and the second game, tough game against Tufts, and we lost it in extra innings. Unfortunately,
heartbreakers. Yeah.
And we finished 4th in the country, but my staff's earned run average, as Anthony had said, was 0.9. We gave 46 earned runs, a total of 58 runs in 51 games. And Alex Hill that year had the most victories of any college player. Wow. She was 38-5. She also had 4 saves. So she was a pitcher of record in
Oh, my
47
goodness.
of our 51 games. And she had 431 strikeouts. What happened was I was watching the NCAA Division I, and Texas had the #1 Division I pitcher in terms of strikeouts, and it didn't look like they were going to win and make it to the World Series. And I said, she only has 418 strikeouts. Now, wait a minute. Alex had more than that. If they don't make it to the World Series, Alex might have the most in the country. So all of a sudden we find out they didn't make it. Division II pitcher didn't. So I said, I was the first one to realize Alex has the most strikeouts in the country, and this is a Division III pitcher. So Alex Hill is amazing. I mean, one of the top Division III pitchers in history. Now, her career totals were 1,332 strikeouts.
Wow.
Well, she's up for the Montclair State Hall of Fame this year because she graduated 7 years ago. So,
well, needless to say, I would fully anticipate her being a fully unanimous first time eligible inductee beyond shadow of a doubt. I'm sure.
she's one of the most decorated females in NJAC history. So,
Oh, I mean, judging from that resume, no question that she fits that bill. And God bless her and the time, of course, that you had the chance to, to spend with her, and the techniques that you were able to, employ upon her and teach her and instill upon her. Obviously, made a huge difference in her performance and her overall career, and led to tremendous success for her as well as for the program that you were a part of. And again, now you're back at the County College of Morris, and how tell us a little bit about how what kind of led you back to the County College of Morris, and what you're envisioning for this this revamped 2021 season, if you will.
well, the path back was through a few years off because I was juggling my engineering career. At times, I had a full-time engineering job. I was running this place. I opened this place in 2012 as a career contingency.
Okay.
Yeah, and also coaching high school, college, and what happened was in 2018, even though I had a full-time engineering job as an environmental engineer, even though I had this place, and even though I had been a assistant coach at Pingree High School,
Okay.
I applied for a college job and got the job at the College of Mount St. Vincent, which is a gorgeous campus on the Hudson River. The challenge was we had no field. So we were trying to scrounge to get games wherever we could, to find facilities for practicing, et cetera. I mean,
That must have been a tremendous source of frustration.
well, it was different, and it was time consuming, but the good thing was the young women on the team were unbelievable. They taught me so much in terms of how to appreciate everything. So that first year we went, and we wound up making it to the second game of the conference championship for the Skyline Conference.
Okay.
And my #1 pitcher, Hannah Thompson, who has started her career with her first job. She's living in Hawaii. Tough place to be living.
God bless her.
Hannah's last college game she pitched a 2-hitter, and we lost 2-0 with bases loaded and enlisted.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a great year, and we were looking for the fact we only graduated 3 seniors. We were going to have a great year. In 2020, we played preseason at County College of Morris. It was wonderful, and then they shut everything down.
Yep.
The week, essentially 1 year ago this week, shut it down before we hopped on the plane.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. And then after that, it was just a difficult. And it's a new athletic director, and it was time to move on. So I moved on, and Greg Wardwell at CCM, he had said, "Gee, Rich, if you're available, nothing else crops up. If you want, my pitching coach is stepping back because of COVID concerns. If you want to be the pitching coach," and that's where I'm at now. And it's interesting because we start in about 2 weeks, our first games to be played. So it'll be interesting. It's usually fun when I get a new team because they've never seen a guy pitch fast pitch softball. Then they realize I pitch live batting practice. And then I'm working with them, and I'm showing them stuff that maybe they had not found with their previous pitching coaches. So
I could imagine, needless to say. And of course, by the time this episode, airs and everything, it'll be, right at, as you're officially beginning the season. And it sounds very exciting. and and I'm sure you guys are going to have a tremendous season. I'm sure you're going to make the same positive impact on that program as you made on it in the past, and of course all the other programs that you've had the pleasure of touching and being a part of, prior to your return to CCM. And you talked about coaching on the high school level, coaching on the college level. I mean, I have to ask, what is your take on the differences in coaching on the high school level versus the college level? And do you have a preference of which level? I might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'd be fascinated to hear what you perceive as the differences between the two and so forth.
It's summed up by the fact, and I asked the associate athletic director before I gave my official first meeting at the College of Mount St. Vincent, and he said it was fine. I told the girls, if I hear any input from your parents, you're benched. The parents influence at the high school level, okay? They can't let go. They wind up getting too involved. They don't have enough confidence that they should allow the coaches to be coaches. You're not going to be perfect. They're going to make errors. One place I was coaching, and I said, I want a meritocracy. Parents, I want your daughters, if they have any issues, come to me. I had 3 assistant coaches. Come to them. 2 are females. Let them resolve it. I don't want to hear any complaints. I don't heard hardly any complaints, except that's not the way it happened. They have to learn, and sports is one of the best areas, especially for females, to learn to be competitive, to how to deal with people, etc. There was an article that came out I saw on Facebook a couple days ago about how 96% of women executives all played sports when they were younger. That's the truth.
That's a very powerful statistic right there. Very powerful statistic.
And that's the biggest difference. Now realize that, yes, I've coached high school and college, and I've coached younger ones in town and with my daughter, but if you look at my private pitching students, one of my top pitching students is 8 years old right now.
Oh, wow. 8 years old.
Yes,
okay.
My pitching students go from 8 till my top pitching student, who's redshirted because of recent surgery. She's pitching for Hofstra University. So I cover the whole gamut.
I can see that. I mean, that's a very wide range, and you got it all covered. And I tell you, I know when we were talking and we were setting this up and everything, and we're trying to coordinate logistics, and you're like, well, I'm going to be at the facility, and from now until my last lesson is 7 or 7:30. You had said, and I'll be free by 8 o'clock, and on a Saturday. I'm like, well, if that's when you're free, then I'll be there, and because I definitely had to work around your schedule, but it just goes to show you the intensity of your schedule. I mean, I gotta ask this because all these years of coaching, all these different levels, your own playing days, your incredible career, and all the private instruction you provide here. How have you managed to balance it all? You have a family, wife, 2 children. How have you managed to balance it all over the years?
Probably for the last 20 years, I've had at least 2 or 3 jobs. Oftentimes a full-time environmental engineering job, but I've always given lessons, done something on the side. Okay, and that's just the way it's been. I live fairly close. My 2 kids, I mean, they're in their 30s, but they're living home, which is, good because I get to see them every day.
Exactly, yeah.
And see what's going on with their lives, etc.
Of course, yeah.
And my wife, my wife and daughter are the real champions in the family because they're in the special needs area. My wife is on the child study team in the school district. She's former principal for a few years of a preschool handicap. My daughter is a teacher of autistic kids. So they're the real champions. To me, this is I have the privilege of having fun and making a little bit of money with it.
And there's nothing like that. But I would go as far as to say that your entire family is a family of champions. So tremendous right there. I mean, well, from all angles, And of course, it's a dual career basically for you. That's obviously seemingly going on and on. And getting back to the County College of Morris, and what do you anticipate as far as your coaching career going forward? Like, do you anticipate maybe the County College of Morris the second time around being, your potential last stop from a coaching standpoint, or do you anticipate, other coaching opportunities down the road?
I like to follow the tenet, never assume, because things that have happened by accident. Montclair State happened by accident because I happened to be registering to go watch one of the showcase tournaments, and there was the head coach, Anita Kabika, checking in front of him. So I said, "How you doing, Coach?" I said, "We met before." And she said, "Where?" I said, "Pulaski Park in Bloomfield." She said, "Oh yeah, what were you doing there?" I said, "I was pitching in a game after." "Oh, you're a guy pitcher?" And that's how it started.
There you go.
Okay, it's subtle things. How did I get involved with softball? I was asked to pitch in a men's modified game in South Orange, and I'm warming up, throwing modified, and me being me, I started throwing, slingshot, and then I started throwing windmill. And one of the guys, the third baseman, was Dave Garabin. Dave Garabin's probably the smartest, most experienced sports person I know. He's in Maplewood, South Orange. He's the president of softball. He played professional basketball for 3 years. Dave was the general manager for 20 years at Cosby Sporting Goods in Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
Still handles professional accounts for the Knicks, for the Rangers, etc. So Dave saw me and said, "Are you a windmill pitcher?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you give lessons?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What? Private? Group?" I said, "Both." He said, "I'll call you." That's how this happened.
So now tell us.
It just grew from one thing. Dave invited me in. I started giving pitching clinics in Maplewood.
Okay.
I got a few private students here and there, and it just kind of mushroomed. As my environmental career is there, this is mushrooming. How did this place open? Well, I joined an independent power producer by the name of Morris Energy Group.
Okay.
At the 4-month anniversary, the 3 guys who owned the company announced they were selling the company. And I thought, I signed a contract. I get a severance pay if they sell. They sold it 1 year later. I said, "Gee, do I pay down debt or?" And this was the or. I said, "Let me open up my contingency career," and that's how it happened.
And here we are, the Epic Sports Training and Fitness Academy, ladies and gentlemen. And it's just like you said, you never know what's going to happen. You never say never. You have to always expect the unexpected in life, and your story is a prime example of that. And your story is also a prime example of an old expression that I like to use because it always fits. When one door closes, another one opens. And here, a nice piece of change fell into your lap to give you the means to, open up this place. And here you are 9 years later, going strong, putting in hours here with lessons after lessons after lessons, like there's no tomorrow. And and God bless you. That's phenomenal. And we all know the other old expression that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And and it sounds to me like you definitely fall into that category these days for sure. And not everybody has the luxury of saying that. So you're definitely one lucky man, Coach, and there's no question about that. And I gotta bring up another thing. I talked about how talented this gentleman is, and we talked about the softball pitching and the coaching success and the phenomenal success of his engineering career and the success of having this facility here. But your bowling prowess we touched upon as well. But also, I'm also sitting next to a musician as well, a legendary trumpet player, and you've been in a couple of rock and disco bands. You've been a part of the Chatham Community Band for 20 years. Tell us a little bit about your musical talents and your love for music and the trumpet itself and the whole 9 yards there.
Well, I learned to play trumpet in First Avenue School with the band teacher Harris Brody, which most people didn't realize was a great jazz musician and arranger. And I played through elementary school. And I figured, wow, that's it. And I was going to high school. I said, well, I'm going to be playing sports. I don't have time. And then my sophomore year one of the kids in my biology class who played drums said, "We don't practice after school, we practice during school." I said, "You do?" Next day I went down and I said, "I want to be in the band." The band director was a fellow that he had been a Navy bandmaster in the 1920s. He was in his late 60s. He looked like he was 50 years old, and he was a virtuoso trumpet player.
Wow.
So he brought me his old trumpet books almost to start all over. They were in Italian. I couldn't read it, whatever. And I started playing, and I loved being in the band. Well, after I graduated from high school, I was in a band with a few other guys in the North Ward area. Sal Mattia was a drummer. We played that summer. Jimmy Correa, he lived right near Essex Catholic High School at the time, and we practiced in the basement. And then after that, I thought, gee, why don't we start a band? So I went to Ralph Avalone, my closest friend at the time.
Yes.
And I saw him the other day. We're still real close. So Ralph was a drummer. He knew a bass player. I knew this, and we formed the band. And
all the pieces of the puzzle.
And we needed a name, so I said it has to be short, something to remember. So I came up with the name Oz, O-Z. And we played in nightclubs. We played for my sister's senior prom, which she went to East Orange Catholic. It was at the Governor Morrison at the time in Morristown. We played for other proms, let's see, Oak Knoll, Pingree High School, etc. Okay. We stayed together for a few years. The band eventually dissolved, and then I played in a wedding band with John Mealy, who has one of the most powerful voices going. We called the band The Inspirations. We played a few weddings. We played a few clubs, etc. But when I started my career working for Exxon, I knew I couldn't be available. But I also was smart enough to know I was not a good enough trumpet player to make a career out of it. I love playing, but...
And I have to ask, do you still play to this day at all?
I played up to the day I opened up here, and I said I just don't have the time. Something has to give, and it did. Although, if you look at my family room now, my trumpet is out because I wanted our dog, nicknamed Shay. Nicknamed Shay.
There's the Met fan and Coach Vicaro coming out, folks. There.
Well, his real name is Seamus, but I think my daughter named him Shay, so we would keep him.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So the trumpet is there.
Trumpet is there. Now, will I play it in the near future? And I'm thinking, probably yes. Right now, being here 7 days a week, it's tough. And I estimate I probably have given 12,000 lessons since I opened up here. So
12,000 and counting, needless to say. And speaking of that, I mean, and I don't even know if you have the time, but I'm going to ask anyway. So if someone wants to, reach out to you and schedule a lesson or book you for a lesson, what's the best way for somebody to do that?
They can check online, Epic Sports Training and Fitness Academy. We've never advertised. I'm pretty busy for the next 2 weeks till the high school girls return to their practices.
Yep.
Then it'll open up a little bit. But it's a business that comes up and down depending on the time of year. But
of course.
Somebody once talked about softball season. There's no such thing as softball season. They played 3 seasons, and then they trained the other season, except they don't only train the other season because now you have indoor facilities that are cropping up here and there. So on the national scale, softball continues to explode.
Yes.
In terms of college sports, softball is the 4th highest revenue generating sport right now. So
that's incredible. That's incredible. And you know what? It should be, okay, because it is a phenomenal sport, and it deserves a lot more recognition than what it has gotten in the past, and I'm glad to hear that it's finally reaching the heights of the recognition that it deserves, and and you of course have been a part of it for so long and continuing to be a part of it, and that's just incredible. And I mean, just an incredible career where multiple careers kind of all intertwined and everything kind of fell into place for you, Coach. And that's just phenomenal. And I got to ask, so this might be tough for you to answer, but we're going to give it a shot. So, we know who Coach Vicaro is. We know who the engineer, Rich Vicaro is, and the trumpet player and the bowler, etc. Okay, so now outside of all of this, okay, who is Rich Vicaro? How would you, describe yourself outside of all of this, if you even can? Let's just give it a shot.
you might see me bike riding through the Great Swamp, which is right over here, stopping, taking photos, and looking like you're in Louisiana. I liked snow skiing for many years, but after 6 knee surgeries, that's kind of killed that.
Needless to say,
standard Jersey guy, love going down the shore. Okay.
Nothing like the Jersey Shore.
Yep. And I go to softball tournaments all the time too. So, and spending time with the family a little bit here and there. Occasionally going on vacations, but it's tough when you have a business like this to find as much time. So,
trying to get away for any significant length of time, I'm sure, is a challenge, and I'm sure it's very special when you do get the opportunity to do that, and so forth. But now to take this a little further, okay, in terms of exploring a little bit more about you, from a personal perspective, I want to do what I like to call the Sessified segment of Sessa's Corner. I'm going to ask you a couple of other questions and kind of see if we can tug at a little bit more of Coach Rich Vicaro if we can. So this one I think should be fairly easy, or at least I think it is. Favorite athlete, past or present? Who comes to mind?
Tony Olivo. I was a Twins fan and I wore number 6. And that's why I wore number 6. Minnesota Twins. I was probably the only Minnesota Twins fan in New Jersey in the mid-60s.
I would say you're probably right on that, but I find that incredibly intriguing. And I know of Mr. Olivo, and being a diehard baseball fan that I am, and a great historian of the game, of course, I grew up researching the older players and everything, so I know who Mr. Olivo is, and that's phenomenal. I never would have known that. And is there an athlete that comes to mind presently that you favor, or that captivates you, whether it be baseball, football, any sport for that matter, anything?
Jason DeGrom, pitcher for the Mets. I think he's the best pitcher in the major leagues.
Jacob DeGrom.
Jacob DeGrom.
Okay. And well, there's no question. I would agree with that. Definitely one of the best going today, if not the best. And so to clarify, because we talked about you being a Met fan, and you just kind of blindsided me with telling me about your fandom for the Minnesota Twins from the mid '60s. So when did you make the switch from, or do you still root for the Twins, or did you at some point did you make a decision that you were going to leave the Twins behind and focus solely on the Mets?
Well, I was a Twins fan, American League fan, and then something important happened in 1967.
Okay.
Gil Hodges became the new manager of the Mets. And I said, okay, now we can take the Mets seriously. And I started watching them in 1968. So now I was able to have an American League team I preferred and a National League team. And over time with the Mets got stronger, and my mother, God bless her, my mother just turned 97. She's a diehard Mets fan.
Oh, there you go.
And the thing too is it's really important that we play major leagues, that the Mets do well because of her. And my sister's a diehard Mets fan also.
Listen, we got to keep Mama Vicaro happy, and so if putting the Mets first is the key to her happiness and everything, and then so be it. But I mean, that's and we all know what happened. You said you started watching the Mets in '68, and we all know what happened in '69, of course.
Yep.
And that's very intriguing. Very, just goes to show you how remarkable it can be about the stories of how, individuals become attached to certain sports teams, and what life factors, contribute to that. And it's I always find that very, very nostalgic and very intriguing. And so that's wonderful. Now, a couple more. Favorite movie?
The Man Who Would Be King. It's a Sean
classic.
Connery movie.
Yes.
Most people are going to say, what?
That's a classic.
Yep. Yeah. I tend not to follow the same path as most other people. I tend to like the underdog and go my own path. I've been like this, people will tell you, since second grade.
It's worked out for you, so be it. Favorite tradition? whether it be family or just overall?
Oh, this is,
I stumped you, didn't I?
yes. I would lean towards softball, and the thing I like to do before games, which bothered the heck out of the other team, is pitch live batting practice before games, whether it was at Montclair State, the College of Mount St. Vincent, couple high schools I was there, and I would intentionally with the high schools want the other team as they pulled in with their buses to see me pitching live to say, that's not fair, and no it is.
Well, we got a glimpse of that tonight in the when we got here, so I can understand the impact that impression would make on the opposing team, and that's wonderful. And one last one, favorite food?
Pizza.
There you go. I didn't stump you there, that was easy, right? That's wonderful, wonderful. I tell you, Rich, I mean, again, an incredibly storied journey and career you have had, and again, multiple careers, all kind of blended together, still going strong here at Epic Sports Training and Fitness Academy, County College of Morris, with the season upon you, and of course you're continuing in the engineering field and on the consulting basis and so forth. I mean, obviously it's a journey that is continuing, going on, and very happy for you and the achievements that you have made, and your story is so inspiring, and it just goes to show everyone that you can have multiple loves in life, personally and professionally, and you can explore them and you can be successful at them, and and Coach, you are the epitome, I think, of that. And of course, we wish you, continued success here at Epic Sports Training and Fitness Academy, as well as, of course, with this upcoming season that you're right on the verge of beginning with your return to the County College of Morris, and wherever that may take you, down the road. And I mean, I thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have the opportunity to interview you and help you tell your story, and I'm sure this is going to inspire a lot of people, who are, kind of just starting out, and they have interest in, how you can make it all happen, and, perseverance, of course, is a big part of that. And I would say we look up perseverance in the dictionary, we're going to see a picture of Coach Rich Vicaro for sure, right next to it.
And I think that's called growing up in Newark.
The old neighborhood, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, that's the old neighborhood, and especially the old First Ward and beyond, and the old neighborhood. It all starts with the old neighborhood, no question about it. The upbringing, the roots, etc. The old neighborhood, no question. That's always the starting point. I couldn't agree with you more. Rich, I thank you so very much. It's been an absolute pleasure once again. All the best for continued success. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Rich Vicaro. And once again, folks, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Anthony M. Sessa, where you will be able to enjoy this episode of Sessa's Corner. Once again, episode 20, all of the prior episodes, all of the upcoming episodes to come. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up. Make sure that that you are fully subscribed. Please feel free to share the show to your social media platforms. So much more to come. So many more great stories like Coach Vicaro's that I plan to help tell and highlight. So I got so much more coming for you with Sessa's Corner. Thank you, everyone, for your continued support of Sessa's Corner. And once again, thank you, Coach Vicaro. And again, continued success. I wish you all the very best, you and your family. And I thank you once again.
Thanks a lot, Anthony.
Have a great night, everybody.